as you hang out with us on a Monday night. It's Monday Night Quarterback with Trey Yanity and Tony Sukalis. I'm Mick Gillespie. We're talking about the NFL right now and Alabama players in the NFL and where they may be drafted. Let's get into Mac Jones. We talked about the number 1 overall pick. Is Mac Jones that big of a drop down from Trevor Lawrence? And where do you guys think that he's going to get picked in this draft?
I mean, I would let's be real here. I would definitely take Trevor Lawrence over Mac Jones. I think Trevor Lawrence has kind of proven himself more. Like he can do more. He's got all the same arm talent and he's more mobile. But I'm a huge Mac Jones guy, and there's only one Trevor Lawrence, but I think you can build a real dynasty with Mac Jones if he falls to the right team. I do think that that's a big part of it. And I think if you put Mac Jones, on a cruddy team with no weapons around him, I do think that could be a recipe for a disaster. But if you put him in a good organization that's able to build around him, I have no reason to doubt that he, could develop into a franchise quarterback. Could be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. We saw him do it at Alabama. You hear that he doesn't have the arm talent, but he does, and we've seen it. He's accurate. He's smart with the ball. He's not totally immobile. He's not a running quarterback, but he can get places when he has to. I really like him as a quarterback. I hope he lands in a good spot for him, with pieces around him that they can kind of build around him.
Yeah, this is a hard one. And, I guess the original question is Mac Jones really that much worse than Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. And yeah, I agree with you and disagree with you, Tony, because you said that they're comparable, but Trevor's proved himself a little bit more. I don't think Trevor's necessarily proved himself a little bit more, but I think these NFL, scouts, recruiters look at these players and think, what could it be? Obviously, they're thinking that they're about to have him on their team for the next few years. They're thinking, look at the projectability, look at the ball speed, the numbers more so than even the success that they've had at the previous level. You kind of look back to Martavis Bryant rule. Martavis Bryant was on the same team as DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins and got drafted right in the middle of them just because, he had the projection tools that they were looking for. He wasn't the best receiver necessarily, but they saw something we don't. That's sometimes the case with these players. That could be the case for Mac, which would probably put him in the top 10. I don't necessarily think so. I think he's a first rounder any way you draw it. Love that, 15 to the Patriots there. I know that'd make you happy, Tony. But realistically, maybe a little later. I'm thinking 28 to the Saints would be probably ideal for both parties. I think that would be a great fit for Mac Jones. The Saints obviously are, looking for a quarterback nowadays. So I love that one. I've seen that in a few different projections, but I wouldn't be surprised at the same time if you went 15 or even higher than that.
I really don't like it. I really don't like the Saints, actually. I really don't, because I think that's a team that's going to have to rebuild. They have a lot of cap problems, and so he's going to be stuck on a team that's kind of like in a transition period. When I look at the teams that I think that Mac could do really well on, the two that stand out for me are the Patriots, and it's not because they have a great offense right now, but you look, they've got the cap space to go get him a weapon, and they've got an offensive line, they've got a defense. I think that they could draft Mac Jones and then build some teams around him. I also like the Steelers. If you're looking for a contender that's already done well, you got great receiving core in Pittsburgh. He can learn behind Big Ben, and then he's ready to go. I really like the Steelers as another team for Mac, and that could be right around the range that you were saying, Trey. That's I think it's 24 to the Steelers. It's not too much difference than 28. That could be a nice location for him.
Well, what about the Panthers? I mean, they've got a top 10 pick, and they need a quarterback. And I love the idea of Joe Brady working with Mac Jones. I'm sure that he's paying close attention to Mac Jones, his skill set. It's all about who gets you. I mean, if you go to the Jets and you don't have an offensive line, you're going to look like Mahomes last night, right? So you want to go somewhere like New England where they're going to protect you. Or maybe you go somewhere like Carolina that had a bad year. Their star running back was hurt. You get him back, and all of a sudden, you're working with some geniuses. If Mac Jones goes in the top 10, I will just be floored just because he's done all this in one season, really.
Yeah, well, let's not forget that Carolina worked with Mac Jones for a whole week in Mobile. That was the team he was playing for, so they're familiar with him now. He's gotten to kind of like, I know it's only a week, but he's gotten to kind of work in their system and kind of prove himself. So yeah, I mean, look, it only takes one team to fall in love with a guy, and the difference between 15 and 8, if you really like a guy and you're Carolina, and look, I think there's just this preconceived notion that Mac Jones is going to be the fifth quarterback taken. But look, if teams like him over Justin Fields or Trey Lance or like then they'll pick him over them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, that it's not inconceivable that he could go in the top 10, Mick. I think you might have a point, especially if a team really falls in love with him. And it sounds like the Panthers might have done that, during the Senior Bowl.
I guess we'll find out.
Daniel Jones, I mean, Mitch Trubisky, we're seeing this kind of thing happen way and way more nowadays. I worry that those two, though, have maybe steered teams away from going with the pick that's not as obvious. But Mac Jones is that obvious. But when you talk about guys like Zach Wilson at BYU, Trey Lance and NDSU, they haven't been playing with NFL-style players or against NFL-style players. And that can work, to your advantage and disadvantage. It's made things easier on Mac. At the same time, it's helped Mac prove that he can play with those players and help them have success at the highest level. But, we really, it's more of a question mark, I think, with Zach Wilson and a guy like Trey Lance, which is why it's a little confusing to hear their names almost locked in ahead of Mac Jones. We'll see. When it comes to the Panthers, though, I think that for some reason, I've seen several mock drafts that, make some good points. Justin Fields would be an excellent quarterback for that style of offense. He, maybe would need a little bit of time to learn, but he's NFL ready enough. If he can stay healthy, I think the Panthers will go with Justin Fields there at number 8. But there's other teams too that could take Mac higher. So it's really with Mac Jones versus all the other players we're going to talk about. I think he has the widest range of picks, and that's the quarterback position, but he could go anywhere from maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 to 32 or after that.
Yeah, Trey, I think you make a good point too, because when you talk about a guy like Trey Lance, who hasn't played against the competition, Mac Jones gets so much stick for having all these weapons, right? But he's also gone against better competition. And I think you gotta have it both ways, Yeah, sure, Mac has more weapons than Trey Lance did, but he's also going up against a way better competition. And I think, like you said, with the two quarterbacks that are, weren't Power 5 guys, I think you've got to at least be a little bit skeptical about the competition they faced, because if you look at a guy like Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, they've played better competition and they've performed against it. And we're talking about, proving guys like we were talking about Trevor Lawrence, I think that has to come into the equation a little bit. And Mac has, albeit for just 1 year, he's done it.
Yeah, no doubt. And he played behind a great offensive line, but he took advantage of it too. And showed that with talent, he can be just as good as anybody in the country. Great to have all you guys with us as you watch or listen. This is Bama Insider and BamaInsider.com. We're Alabama's rival site. We cover all the recruiting with the Crimson Tide, keep you updated on everything going on in the world of Alabama. And tonight on our Monday Night Quarterback Show, we're getting into where we think that some of these Alabama stars are going to be drafted in this year's NFL draft.
Thank you for watching this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button. Check out one of these 2 videos that are Alabama football related. We appreciate you more than you know. We'll catch you next time right here at BamaInsider.com.